I know it's always easier to clean stuff up after a win. So after being able to digest last night, what do you plan on focusing on during the bye week?
I guess first things first, kind of get healthy physically and mentally. Just it's a good time for us. There's a bunch of people on both sides of the ball and in special teams. Just nicks, dings, kind of that stuff that adds up during the course of the season. It's good timing that way, and then a ton of corrections. Had a bunch of guys playing in and out of different positions on the offensive line, did some very good things, competed hard, have a bunch of things we can correct, have a bunch of things we can correct at quarterback, at wide receiver. Our tailbacks behind Royce all have things to work on. Defensively, had a couple chances to create turnovers and really put that thing away, and could have finished drives offensively and put that thing away. Still a few coverage things to work out, but we're competing hard, and I know our guys have come with a fix it mindset.
Joey?
Did you expect Darren to have that kind of a game in his return? I mean, he was making big plays out there.
He's certainly capable of it. He's a guy that's very dynamic, and he's practiced really hard. He's a guy that loves practice. He plays hard in practice, and he had played on scout team quite a bit, about half of the time leading up to this game, and so he's a competitor that way, and that's going to help a young secondary get a lot of work against a quality guy. But yeah, we had to do something. We had to make some things happen in the passing game, and got off to a good start that way.
What led you guys to try Tyree at cornerback, and how did you think he did, and do you think he's going to stay there?
Perfect segue into the players of the week, and then I'll answer your question. Tyree ended up being our defensive player of the week. They went back and forth. DeForest, Buckner, another night of double teams, triple teams, and the other defensive linemen really stepped up and got a decent amount of a pass rush without blitzing a ton. And Tyree saved us a bunch just in a communication from a communication standpoint. Also physically did some really good things. So he was our defensive player of the game. The scout player of the week was Taylor Stinson. Offensive player of the game was Braylon Addison. The scout on that side was Gus Cumberlander. And then the special teams was kind of the entire punt team. Ian did a great job kicking it, but protecting it, covering it. Had some very pivotal points there where they did a great job. And then the special teams player or scout of the week was Jake Freilich, is how he pronounced it, which is Fröhlich, right, in German. Cheerful, just like me. But back to Tyree, right, was your original question. We anticipate him staying there, and just of trying to compete and get the best four guys on the field in our base defense. He and Charles really added a bunch of competitiveness to that situation. Charles wasn't available for a lot of the game last night, which was unfortunate for him and for us. But again, Tyree stepped up.
Kristen?
You touched on this a bit last night, but how is the energy different on the field with Vernon back at quarterback?
Well, I don't know if the energy was different on the field. I think once play started, there was a few plays made that were different. And again, that's every time you say something good about something, you're saying bad. But that's not what I'm doing. He's going to watch the tape, and a bunch of times there's plays to be made again, but then he may, kind of freelanced a few things. But when you look at it, we converted more third downs on our first drive than USC did all last week. And so that was kind of the animal that you're playing against from a defensive standpoint. And after a couple of those happened, I think that that is something that permeates your team.
Kristen, again?
There's been a lot of talk about the passing game still trying to work itself out. But last night, having Carrington and Adams back out there, you guys were making a lot longer throws than you had been all season. How much of a spark were they both for the passing game?
Well, it was big, and then also Braylon, Dwayne Stanford, all the other guys that got involved, which they changed up their coverage quite a bit from a percentage standpoint. They kind of did what they do. On a tilted on a almost a 80 to 90% scale difference of kind of what they've done from a coverage standpoint. And so that created some of those situations. We knew, we have to be able to run the ball. Obviously, we want to be balanced, but it was just kind of a virtue of how they played us and then executing it.
Ugo mentioned that he thought that Vernon actually played a lot better in the game, although practicing really well. I mean, did you see a spark in Vernon in the game as opposed to how he practiced all week, or was it kind of consistent with what he saw in practice?
I think that's been consistent, and it's always funny to note, like, how would Ugo know how he practices? I always think that's funny, like, he doesn't watch the offensive practice. But if he thinks he did, then great. No, he's practiced well. I think he's definitely. I think there's definitely those quarterbacks that live football is their their deal, and then there's guys that are great in 7-on-7 and not great in real football, which you'd much rather have the former. And so, yeah, he just needs to continue to trust the scheme a little bit and get his eyes in the right place, get his feet in the right place, and then improvise. And that's where a guy like that can be really, lethal.
It seemed like the performance of Royce kind of flew under the radar a little bit last night. How did you think he did, and was it as hard to run as it seemed in the game?
It was as hard to run as it seemed. They have an excellent front. How they were scheming, obviously to stop our best player, and they did a good job of it. We had some opportunities late. We thought to put the game away, and watching the film, we still think that of how we had some run game going. Again, had some guys in there that battled. Evan Voller did some really good things. Did a bunch of things that he can improve upon. Doug Brenner, same thing, in a different role and an increased role by percentage of what they've done. Cameron Hunt moving out to tackle and battling against the number one defense in the conference.
With the bye week, 2 practices this week. I mean, what's the schedule like for the coaches and for the players here over this course week?
Yeah, basically just kind of building it back from a Thursday kick that, so Thursday, Saturday, we're backing up. So Saturday would be the Monday of that game week. And then we're basically going to work on the field physically, off the field mentally, and then also lifting on Tuesday and Thursday, and then use the off days to recharge, make sure we're all dialed in from an academic standpoint, getting off to a great start that way as well. And we'll take some time to have some meetings like as we always do, and get ready for Arizona State.
Along those same lines, I know assistant coaches usually use this time to recruit. Are all of them going to be doing that? Are you going to be able to do that?
There will be probably all of us at some point. Right now, seven are out and will be out. And then the 3 remaining of us have some things outlined that may or may not happen. So how's that for specific?
How clean of a game do you think you guys played in all 3 phases last night, would you say?
How clean of a game. That's one of those things that, you're always chasing, because we blew a couple coverages that I know they're sitting up there going, shoot, we should have thrown it to this guy, and they're right. At the same time, we had a million opportunities to make that a multiple touchdown game type of difference, and that's where we have to just grab the situation and finish things. So special teams probably the cleanest out of the 3. Still had a penalty there, had a couple issues, but overall, did a very good job against a very good special teams unit. And then, offensively and defensively, there's always a million things that either get overblown in a loss or undersold in a win. And that's where you have to go back and just own the film and fix it.
Kristen? This is kind of sidestepping back to the recruiting aspect, but after everything that happened at USC, there were a few commits for you guys that started tweeting out, like, oh, hey, like, come to Oregon, we'll take you guys. A few guys that decommitted that have said that they're going to try to take official visits with Oregon now and reschedule those. I mean, in any type of situation, not just with that USC situation, but with guys flipping back and forth, is that something you guys try to capitalize off on, like on that timing?
The magic answer, it depends, right? a lot of times when that happens, guys, and I'm speaking completely hypothetically here. A lot of times when that happens, guys look around, and then they stay, ended up committed to wherever they were. Sometimes if the situation is appropriate or right or whatever that fit becomes, and it's drastically different, whether it's a schematic change or just a style to whatever the personality thing that might not work, things can change. But it totally 100% individually based.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.